14-year-old Huala would love to take a warm shower, but there's only cold water available to the Syrians living here in this refugee camp in Lebanon, and there isn't much of that.
Our water reserves are used up, but there's no electricity for the pump.
We're in the Bequa Valley in Lebanon, on the border to Syria. 500,000 Syrian refugees live here. Lebanon can scarcely cope with the influx. There's now 1 refugee for every 4 residents. The camps are full, but for the Syrians, there's no way back at present. Khadija Hussein Shwaid and her daughters fled here 2 years ago.
Syria is behind those mountains, 20 kilometers from here. It's so near, but for us it's unreachably far.
We're on our way to Khadija's quarters. She's invited us in. The concrete floor is cold. The walls are thin sheets of plastic. Hardly enough protection in temperatures under the freezing point. Khadija and her 3 daughters come from Aleppo. When war broke out there, the family fled, leaving everything behind them.
We can stand the hunger here, but the death of a child would be unbearable. We're hungry and thirsty, but for a mother there's nothing worse than losing a child, even if they're almost grown up. Anything's better than being killed in Syria.
Khadija's husband stayed in Syria to care for his sick brother. He can't support the family. Khadija has a hard time making ends meet. Now she can no longer think of any other way to help herself. She's decided that her 16-year-old daughter, Doa, should marry her cousin. He'll have to take care of Doa and pay for her upkeep. Many here in the camp make the same decision.
I know a marriage like this is difficult. They're both still kids, and they bicker a lot. Her future husband feels too young for this responsibility and doesn't want to marry yet. But I said, if you want her, marry her now. I'm old. I no longer have the strength to take care of everything. He should do it. I don't know what to do. I'm bewildered. It's not for me to decide alone. I have to accept my parents' decision.
The Syrians in the camp have their worries. For the Lebanese, the sheer numbers of refugees are the problem. The village of Satnel is just a few minutes from the camp. We meet Abdelhamid Shima, the village headman. He no longer knows how he'll keep the situation under control. Some 20,000 Syrian refugees now live on the edge of the village.
Sadnel now needs 3 times as much electricity as before the crisis. The same goes for water and sewage. Our wastewater systems are overflowing. The refugees throw their trash into the rivers and onto the roads. All the camps on the fields are interfering with farming. It's getting out of hand. We need a strategy.
Sadnal has 11,000 Lebanese residents, and Abdelhamid Shima tells us their willingness to help has reached a limit. Many would be glad to be rid of the refugees. Jobs were always scarce here. Now, they say, it's getting progressively worse. Workers used to earn the equivalent of 27 euros a day. Now Syrians do the same jobs for 4 euros. The Lebanese middle class is losing ground. The poor are getting poorer. Hayla Sharouf owns a bakery. She bakes sarj, a traditional Lebanese flatbread. Like so many people, she's suffered a drop in income, about 60%. Her husband is unemployed. They have 6 children. She earns 7 euros a day.
Our lives have been ruined since the day they came here. We eat and drink much less than before the crisis, but it's our destiny. What can we do? We won't be rid of the Syrians for a long time.
In Sadnal, we meet Khadija from the refugee camp again. She can't afford fresh bread. She buys only the bare necessities. Every refugee gets 24 euros a month from the UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Agency. Pre-packaged bread costs under €1, tea almost €2. She shows us what she's bought. Tea, full, which is fava beans with lentils, a bit of Maggi flavouring because she can't afford the whole package, and halva. She pays with the card the UNHCR has given her. Typically, the credit only lasts until the middle of the month, and Khadija then has to borrow money. She and her children have to live on the groceries for a week. Back in the camp, Khadija makes breakfast for the children of one of her cousins. The entire extended family lives here. It's especially hard in winter.
None of the men in the camp have any work. In the summer, there are jobs in the fields harvesting potatoes. But they're out of season right now.
In the summer, Khadija's daughters also work in the fields, like many children here. They no longer go to school. Only the younger ones are lucky. For them, there are lessons in the camp, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the school tent. A Lebanese NGO, Beyond, takes care of the refugee children in the Bequa Valley. The money comes from UNICEF. Many children here have had traumatic experiences. The school helps them regain their confidence. Teachers from Syria, social workers from Lebanon. Here, cooperation works. English, mathematics and Arabic are taught. Traumatised children are looked after by psychologists. Maria Assi is the head of Beyond. She asked the children if they love Syria. The answer is a resounding yes.
In our program, we have 17,000 children. But even in the Ministry of Education, we have big number, like 100,000. UNICEF is doing their best. They're the best. They are doing what they can ever do. In another country, we can find like this. But at the end, still we have 100,000 of children without education.
So much need, even the aid workers are overburdened. Maria Assi tries to explain the risks to families, such as when heating the tents.
One of the family here, they lost 2 of their children, one 5 months and the other is 3 years old, because lack of oxygen when they on the heater on with plastic and some of bad wood.
This winter, children have frozen to death. When snow blocks the roads into the valley, doctors often arrive too late. Khadija's children often feel helpless.
All my sister and I have here is our mother. We're often alone in the tent. Sometimes mother works and comes back very late. We thank Maria from Beyond for helping us. We couldn't survive here without her.
Khadija tries to reach her own sister. Without success, there's no signal. Her sister had taken her ailing husband out of the camp back to Syria because treatment in Lebanon was too expensive. Despite that, her husband died. Khadija hasn't been able to reach her all day.
Her telephone has had no reception since this morning. We don't know where she is. She's stuck at a border post in no man's land between Syria and Lebanon. I've tried to phone her so often. We're really worried about her. She has asthma.
For the first time in history, Syrians need a visa for Lebanon. It's an attempt to stop the flow of refugees into the country. For Khadija's family, it's a disaster. They have to pay just under 900 euros for the visa, money they don't have. Now her sister's 5 children are waiting for their mother. They don't even have a picture, just her registration with the UNHCR. The family takes care of their young relatives as well as they can. They're between the ages of 5 and 13.
We always have hope, but we don't know when she'll come back. She's very ill.
5-year-old Ayub says he wants his mother.
He cries all the time. He wants his mother back. We hope the Lebanese government recognizes this as an emergency. There are so many children waiting for their parents.
Syrians and Lebanese alike feel left alone in this crisis.
We've reached our limits. We're helpless and we can't go on. There has to be a crisis plan, an international solution for the refugees, but also for the villagers, for the Lebanese.
But first, they'll have to get through the winter. New snowstorms have been forecast. After 4 years of war in Syria, all the refugees want is to return home. But they've resigned themselves to spending a long time in Lebanon.